this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Think about this. 20 years ago, in 2006, $20,000 bought you roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. At today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $150,000. And that's why I'm buying more gold right now from Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. Text my name, Buck, to the number 989898 to receive your free info kit on gold. Again, text my name, Buck, to the number 989898 today.
Welcome in Thursday edition, March Madness edition of Clay and Buck. I just tweeted out my bracket as the show began. Buck, in 10 minutes, the world's greatest tip-off begins for the world's greatest basketball tournament. The NCAA tournament is underway. Have you done your bracket yet? Have you filled one out?
I will do it in the break. That's how on the ball I am. I don't even need to think about it, Clay. I just pick. It flows. The picks flow from my fingertips and turn into bracket gold.
There you go. I was wondering how you were going to land that ship, and you did a good job of it. My picks are up. I just tweeted them out 30 seconds ago, and the games are officially underway in about 10 minutes. So this will be a fun show, as it often is. But we got a lot of serious things to talk about with all of you. And Pete Hegseth had another early press conference about the situation unfolding in Iran, and I'm sure we're going to play some of those cuts for you. But President Trump is meeting the new leader of Japan in the Oval Office as we speak, and he just made news, as Trump typically does. Buck, one of my favorite things that Trump does is say he's not going to answer a question and then answer the question while saying he's not going to answer the question. So he was specifically asked, this is something that a lot of you have been concerned about. He was specifically asked, are you going to put so-called boots on the ground in Iran? He's typically said, hey, I'm not going to answer that. And to his credit, strategically, it would be not smart to say, potentially, if he's going to do one thing or another, leave all options open. It's harder to prepare for something if you don't know what's coming. But he said he's not going to answer, and then he answered. Here is cut 31. This just happened in the Oval Office moments ago.
Potentially put U.S. troops or more troops in the region?
No, I'm not putting troops anywhere. If I were, I certainly wouldn't tell you. But I'm not putting troops, and we will do whatever is necessary to keep the price as well. I actually thought when I did this, look, the Dow just hit 50,000 a couple of weeks ago. They said that couldn't happen for 4 years. It wouldn't happen in my term. It's such an outrageous thing because I said it would happen. I didn't know it was going to happen that fast, but it just hit 50,000.
So Trump kind of dancing around there, but asked if he's going to put boots on the ground. The only place I think he would have gone, and we've said this for days and days now, is potentially Karg Island, which is the main central location of where Iranian oil is shipped, produced. We have video of Trump from back in the 1980s that we've played talking about, hey, if you're going to hit Iran, that's the place where you hit Iran. But it seems like, Buck, there is Trump had a strongly worded statement that he put out last night and continues to move towards things being done. I think you said you expected by April 1 for this thing to be over. I think that's a good number. I would go by April 15 if we want to go on the long end, which would mean another 3.5 or so weeks. But it does feel to me like this operation is winding down, primarily because Iran has very few ballistic missiles left and increasingly few drones. If you look at the overall trajectory of Iran's ability to fire back kind of haphazardly in every direction, they don't have that opportunity anymore to a large extent. And as that opportunity has continued to be degraded, we are now sitting in a situation where it's basically, hey, who do we want to take out and what is a resolution here? Is that your take as President Trump, again, will continue to update, continues to answer questions?
Well, sure, but I think that something else that came out last night, a reminder that this is high stakes stuff and things can go south on us pretty quick. the president truthed out the following: Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East, has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar, was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, nor did it have any idea that it was going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this or any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack, and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's liquid natural gas facility. No more attacks will be made by Israel, all caps, pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case, Qatar, in which instance the United States of America, with or without the help or consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran. But if Qatar's liquid natural gas is attacked again, I will not hesitate to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. I just want to read that whole thing because, wow, that's a lot going.
There's a lot going on, a lot of different plot twists in that statement. When I read it last night, I was like, oh, wow. So it's almost like you need to break down all the different categories. The first, and obviously the one that jumped out the most to me, was this attack that Israel levied was not one that Trump knew was coming. But I actually thought it was quite diplomatic as he moved on to say, hey, if you do anything to Qatar, then we are going to rain down holy hell on you. There are some reports that Iran seems to be stepping back from doing anything, which obviously would suggest we are moving towards a situation where maybe calming down is more likely to occur. Oil and gas prices, Buck, I thought you said this yesterday. This is of all the times that you could be the oil and gas guy. It spikes on every little news story. It comes back down on every little news story. There's a bunch of different oil markets. There now is a huge divergence between the oil markets that are based in the Middle East, largely that type of oil and gas, and crude oil, which is the typical U.S. oil and gas. As I have it open on my screen in front of me right now, $97 a barrel. Crude oil, the U.S. focused crude oil, went to $120 about a week ago. And it continues to spike or not spike entirely based on news stories right now. So you'll hear, hey, there's something new in the Strait of Hormuz, or a new missile has landed, and they will move in one direction or another rapidly, even as we are talking to all of you. Crude oil right now is $97.50 a barrel. Again, down from $120 where it went a couple of weeks ago, and sitting at right at $97.50 as I'm talking to all of you, moving on the news basically that's coming out of the Oval Office every sentence almost, it feels like right now.
Look, I'm wondering what exactly is going to come out of all of this, because increasingly I think it's clear what we've been saying. There's not going to be regime change here. So you've killed the leadership off, but the security forces and the government structure below that leadership level seems like they're staying in place. You've destroyed all their military infrastructure, but that doesn't seem to change. For example, the Basiji militia, the Basij, being able to terrify people into staying in their homes. And I just sit here and think, this was, is it clear what we're trying to get out of this and why we got into this? I'm not sure it is.
Well,
I think this is a fair question to ask. What got us into this is Iran was going to go nuclear, which we've been told for 20 years at different levels was like months away, weeks away, months away, weeks away. Okay. All right. I mean, we don't have access to that information. Only the top of the national security apparatus does, which should make people a little bit uncomfortable, right? I mean, I lived through the whole WMD thing, as did all of you. We're trusting the people in charge. Now, I voted for Trump 3 times. I trust President Trump on matters of national security as a general rule, but there is just a trust factor there. What is the outcome here that's going to be worth the hundreds of billions of dollars that this campaign will have ended up costing?
I think the challenge is, and you would know this better than anybody, having worked as a CIA analyst, predicting what was going to happen on the ground and what is happening and what's likely to happen is really, really difficult inside of Iran. Because the president's first statement that he made when we decapitated the government and took out the Ayatollah was, now is the time for all of you to rise up. You may not have another chance for decades or generations to take back your government. That seemed like the goal was regime change. But it now seems like, given that there doesn't appear to have been that rising tide inside of Iran, I mean, I think it's fair to say, Buck, there were tens of thousands of people in the streets protesting the government when the Ayatollah was still alive. Now he's dead, and the tens of thousands of people in the streets don't seem to be happening. Now,
well, a lot of them are dead.
But, he killed 30,000 people. Australian has an incredible, great newspaper in Australia has an incredible front page. So, yes, a lot of the resistance they killed. But I think maybe there was an expectation of more of an uprising. And as you were talking, I just sent it in. We'll play it. Bessent is in the Oval Office, and he just said they still expect for there to be an uprising inside of Iran. So I think part of the argument has been it's shifting in its goals because, on the one hand, the mow the grass strategy of, hey, we're just going to wipe out Iran's ability to have strong weaponry and any impact in the Middle East. That's, to me, the low end, and I think likely to have occurred. The high end is we're going to replace this government with one that actually is a decent one. That seems unlikely, and it feels to me like we're going to be somewhere in kind of the squishy middle, where what exactly Iran is going to look like when we stop dropping bombs is hard to forecast. Here's the other thing. Why can Israel not continue to drop bombs? So if the U.S. decides at some point in time, hey, we've done everything we think we need to do, I'm not sure the joint response. We've got an audio clip from Trump about this, and the Truth Social post that you read is indicative of this as well. Couldn't there be at some point a divergence in the union where the U.S. says, hey, we think we've done enough, and Iran says, hey, we haven't, like we saw in Gaza when Israel kept going because they're trying to eliminate the threat once and for all. And the threat, to be fair to Israel, is more substantial than the threat is to the United States.
I think the Israelis have made it clear to Iranian hardliners, if you do anything that negatively affects the national security or the people of Israel, we'll blow you up in a tent in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night. Like, we'll get you.
Yeah.
I mean, that has been made clear. What does that mean for the future of a country of 90 million people? I mean, I got to tell you, as this thing is going on here, we are using a tremendous amount of munitions, which are very expensive, I might add, in all of this, to blow up a lot of kind of second and third tier military equipment, just calling it like it is. So how long do we continue to do this for? I mean, this is going to end up being an expensive side quest of sorts, from what I think a lot of people are still wondering. Hey, we've got domestic issues here. That's really what we want to see the focus on. Trump is aware of that. Look, he just said, it's going to be over pretty soon. This is cut 33. Play this one.
Prices will go up, the economy will go down a little bit. I thought it would be worse, much worse, actually. I thought there was a chance it could be much worse. It's not bad, and it's going to be over with pretty soon. We've obliterated their Navy. We've obliterated just about everything there is to obliterate, including leadership. Their Navy's gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft equipment is gone. We're flying wherever we want, Pete. We have nobody even shooting at us. They have, and as you know, their leadership is gone. Their leaders are gone. They pick new leaders, they're gone. They pick new leaders, they're gone. And now they're looking for new leaders again. We can take out the island anytime we want.
So he's talking about Cargill in there. We'll go to break, Buck. There's a bunch more clips coming out, including one all-timer from President Trump on Pearl Harbor as he sits alongside the leader of Japan that I think you guys are going to enjoy. We'll hit a bunch of these cuts. Again, this is happening in real time, so we're trying to keep our audio coming for all of you as the news continues to come, as President Trump is in the Oval Office right now taking questions from the media. But positive, much less serious. March Madness just tipped off. If you love March Madness as much as I do, if you love college basketball as much as I do, you need to go to Prize Picks right now. PrizePicks.com, code Clay. You can pick more or less on a bevy of athletes out there. College basketball, Major League Baseball coming soon, NBA, NHL, all of it, and you can play along with us. PrizePicks.com, code Clay for $50 when you play $5. You can play in all 50 states. That's PrizePicks.com, code Clay. PrizePicks.com, code CLAY. Let the March Madness fun roll with $50 in your account when you play $5. That's PrizePicks.com, code CLAY.
Making America great again isn't just one man. It's many. The Team 47 Podcast. Sundays at noon Eastern in the Clay and Buck podcast feed. Find it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back in, Clay, Travis, Buck Sexton Show. We appreciate all of you hanging out with us. And again, Oval Office with the leader of Japan. Lots of different news coming. Fast and furious. We want to continue to update you with everything that President Trump was saying, some serious, some funny, as is often the case with President Trump. And let me see here. The absolute latest. We were discussing the Truth Social post last night, and Trump was asked about his disagreement on the decision Israel made to target part of Iran's oil and natural gas infrastructure. Trump said he didn't know about it. This is cut 34. Trump says he told Netanyahu to stop the strikes on Iran's energy fields.
You talked to Prime Minister Netanyahu about attacking the oil and gas fields.
Yeah, I did. I told him don't do that, and he won't do that. We didn't discuss. We do. We're independent, but get along great. It's coordinated, but on occasion he'll do something, and if I don't like it, and so we're not doing that anymore.
Question for you, Buck. Could this be intentional, where Trump gets to play the good guy to Qatar and Israel gets to be the bad guy, and Trump says, boy, I didn't know we were going to do this, and it's all kind of coordinated, but it allows him to look like the middle agent trying to bring, stability? Or do you think Netanyahu just truly went rogue and did this and the American administration didn't know about it?
I look, this is just my gut instinct. I think that Trump doesn't want them messing with the liquid natural gas production for the whole world. This is real stuff. If you were to eliminate, let's just put this out there. Let's say Iran had the capability to destroy the Qatari liquefied natural gas field we're talking about, the Pars field. It's a huge percentage of, like a shockingly large percentage of global production and global reserves in those fields. And we can pull up the stats for you in a second. I don't know off the top of my head. I just know it's really big. I think it's the biggest liquefied natural gas facility in the world. So that gives you some sense of it. You want to really mess up the global economy in the blink of an eye? Take offline. Now, this is only one part of the facility. It's going to be. I'm not a catastrophe. I think it's all going to be okay. It's fine. But I think Trump's like, hey guys, knock it off. I think legitimately this was. Look, this is where you have to talk about this too. Iran is a bigger threat to Israel than it is to us.
Yes.
That's just a fact. We all know this. They have different, now, you can be allies with people in something as we are and not have the exact same, we do not. There is no such thing as a country that has the exact same national security interests.
If the United States decides to stop bombing before Iran does. In fact, I might put the probability as high that could occur.
Before Israel does, yeah.
Yeah,
the Israelis have been taking out, or have they? But nuclear scientists have been, getting blown up for a long time. And a lot of people think that, we think we know who it is. I mean,
Right.
neither confirm nor deny, but I mean, you look at all the reporting on this stuff going back for a very long time. I mean, Israel has been waging a covert war against the Iranian nuclear program for many, many years. And much more so than, well, at least than Americans are aware of at their own government. And again, what are we doing? What are the Israelis doing? You know, who knows? But point here is, Clay, yeah, I think Israel sees this as an opportunity to just really hit them where it hurts in Iran, more so even than Trump is willing to do. Because Iran can't hit us with ballistic missiles. Iran can hit Israel with ballistic missiles, obviously, and drones and a whole bunch of things. So this is just straightforward. And anybody who has any kind of, oh, what are you saying? No, of course, we're different countries, different population size, different geography, different distance to the enemy here, which is Iran. They're going to have a different set of national security interests than we are. There will be some areas where it coincides. There are some areas where it doesn't. And I think this is where we saw Trump having to basically tell them, you guys, if we're doing this thing together here, you got to cool it a little bit on that. You can't be putting global liquefied natural gas production at risk with any actions that you're taking. Because also, if you took this offline, I think it cost $100 billion or $70 billion to build this facility. Some crazy number. And if you obliterated the whole thing, it would take years and years to rebuild this.
I wonder also whether this is Netanyahu and Israel knowing that the Americans might be opposed to it and doing it anyway, with getting whatever you wanted to do done without having to clear it beforehand and create it. And then you're like, oh, sorry, we thought you were okay with this. Here is, you asked the question, Buck, about ultimate goals. And by
the way, Clay, can I ask you a question? Sorry,
Yeah.
World War II, wasn't there a dispute between America and Britain over daylight bombing? Didn't we have over the bombing raids? Am I right about that?
I'm reading right now. I mean, there were the idea that the U.S. and England, in retrospect, everybody, Buck, says, oh, what a great partnership. They fought all the time. They disagreed on stuff all the time. The decision of when to go into Europe was a huge battle, and you're talking about one of the disagreements.
Okay. I'm totally right, by the way. Woohoo! Britain and the U.S. strongly disagreed over daylight bombing in World War II. The Royal Air Force, because they had just, gotten hit real bad, lost a lot of people. They're like, look, we're going at night. We're going at night. And the Americans were like, well, we want to actually go in the day so we can see what we're hitting, because this is a lot of it, even with the Norden bomb site or whatever, this is like line of sight stuff, really, you're talking about. And the Brits were just like, nah, we're dropping those bombs at night. That's how we're going to do it. So my point here is, this is not a new thing. This is not oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, allies
are going to disagree on target.
My historical reading, because the idea is that the U.S. and Britain were in lockstep agreement, and in the way that it gets covered, because we won World War II, that's the perspective on it. But actually, there was a great deal of behind the scenes disagreement. So to your point, the U.S. and Israel having somewhat divergent perspectives is not crazy.
And the British were okay with higher civilian casualties, I might add, as well.
Well, because they went through all of the attacks. I mean, if you go back and read, it's a great book on when England was getting bombed, when it looked like Hitler was going to invade England before he decided to pivot in one of the great strategic miscalculations of all time and go after Russia. The expectation was during the bombing of Britain, I think they thought, this goes into the bombing campaigns, that they could get England to relent entirely based on the bombing campaign, that Britain would just wave the white flag, basically, and they would never have to come across the English Channel and invade. But it doesn't surprise me that England, after going through that, was like, we're not worried about civilians, because they got a lot of their civilians killed.
Well, look at the analogy here to Israel. After all the years of Iran backing and training Hamas, backing and training Hezbollah, directing attacks on Jews all over the world, it would make perfect sense to me that Israel is more willing to tolerate more damage. Now, they have been very precise in their strikes. I'm not saying they're going out of their way to hit civilian targets. I am saying infrastructure targets, they may be a little more accepting of, and that's certainly what Donald Trump is. I'm just repeating essentially what Trump's
Iran
position
is not targeting directly attacks on anybody. They're just kind of haphazardly firing in whatever direction they can. So if I'm Israel, frankly, if I'm Qatar, the UAE, any of these countries, my concern about civilian casualties is lower after seeing what Iran's been willing to do with us. Now, Buck, I wanted to play this. Scott Bessent also in the Oval Office. I believe this is where that came from. Team, correct me if I'm wrong, if this was a interview happening at the same time in a different spot. But I think Scott Bessent also in the Oval Office. He said, kind of echoed the initial statement that Trump made, which is we're seeing mass defections. And at some point, he thinks the regime is going to collapse inside of Iran. This is a little bit of a different take, more aggressive, more akin to what Trump said immediately after the first strike that took out the Ayatollah, cut 35.
We are seeing the defections at all levels as they're starting to sense what's going on with the regime.
Did that just cut?
We are seeing the defections at all levels as they're starting to sense what's going on with the regime. It doesn't get reported here in the U.S. very well, but we are trouncing them from the air, and the regime will probably collapse within itself. At Treasury, we've seen where they've wired their money out of the country. We're coming for that. We're going to get it back to the Iranian people.
Mr. President, seeing defections?
Israel.
There's a lot of military defections also. You have a lot of military defections in Iran. I don't blame them.
So that is a little bit different perspective. That's more akin to what was initially said, Buck, which is that there is some sign potentially, or maybe they're trying to create it by talking about it, that some of these entrenched interests in the Iranian government are actually buckling.
This would be, if they pull off what Trump and Bessent are talking about here, which is regime change without invasion, just regime. We are acting like the Air Force, the preemptive Air Force of an Iranian resistance movement. That's really how this lines up. If they pull this off, and that's how this actually goes down, this will be the most incredible foreign policy military maneuver since D-Day, honestly. I mean, this is a incredible generation defining success. So the fact that they're still talking about this and hopeful that can happen just gives you a sense of possibility. But real tough stuff they're trying to pull out.
Here's what I would also say, Buck. It is
they're going for the home run. They're just going for the home run here.
I think it's also just a sign of the tech. Right. Yesterday, we told you about the guy who thought he was safe, one of their top Iranian generals living in a tent in a, like literally not able, theoretically. He went totally offline and they sent in a drone and wiped him out. The tech is better now than it ever has been before. By the way, I actually think the drone tech is going to get scary. Everybody talks about nuclear weapons. Think about when individuals get access to bombing with drones and the dangers that can create inside of every country.
One thing that I just militarily I think is interesting, the fact that they've gone so hard so fast at Iran, something in the background that I'm sure has affected these calculations, and the reason why Secretary of War and the Trump administration and the president himself as commander in chief have been, let's go, go, go. And just a tremendous amount of ordnance has been dropped on Iran. Clay, we already know. I mean, there's open reporting about it now, but it was obviously going to happen. The Russians are giving real-time intelligence to the Iranians now. They're sending them their most advanced, their best, or, some of their more advanced, I should say, drone technology. And Russians have gotten really good at this because of the Ukraine war. They're sending them stuff. They're sending them gear. They're giving them intel. They want to try to mess us up in Iran because, of course, they're, from the Russian perspective, understandably, very bitter. Putin's very bitter about our backing of the Ukrainian resistance. So what I'm saying is taking out as much of their military infrastructure as possible, as quickly as possible, really makes a difference, because the Russians were going to try to create a quagmire, even just for our Air Force there. Give them better surface-to-air missiles. Give them better target. Give them whatever they can.
Yeah. And by the way, we're doing all of that to Russia in Ukraine, as you were like,
right.
So for everybody out there,
we can't even,
how dare
what are we going
Russia?
to do? Send them a strongly worded letter,
We're trying to kill as many Russians as we can by assisting Ukraine too. Let's see. I want to tell you guys all about chalk. If you need more energy, if you need more vitality, if you need more vigor in your life, If you're sitting around, you're like, boy, March Madness, going to be up a little bit late, Clay. I got late games on Thursday, late games on Friday. Maybe you're chasing the kids and the grandkids around. If you need a little bit more vitality in your life, a little bit more testosterone, 20% all natural increase. If you go to chalk.com, use my name Clay. That's CHOQ, my name CLAY. Get hooked up now and put yourself on the path to having way more testosterone. 20% in 3 months' time, all natural. What do you have to lose? Try it out. You get the best discount on subscription for life, plus $99 chalk lit powder included as well when you go subscribe. Check it out today. CHOQ is the website. That's chalk, but it's spelled CHOQ. My name Clay for the best discount on subscription for life. You can cancel anytime. Our buddy Seaton at Chalk, he runs a great company, and he can put some more energy back in your life with more testosterone. Don't feel like a wimpy Democrat. Feel like an actual man at chalk.com, code Clay.
Sometimes all you can do is laugh, and they do a lot of it with the Sunday Hang. Join Clay and Buck as they laugh it up in the Clay and Buck podcast feed on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, second hour, Clay and Buck kicks off now. We have some just moments ago comments from President Trump in the Oval Office, where he is with the Prime Minister of Japan, I believe. Right?
I think that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, I know
Some
these countries with their presidents and their prime ministers,
and presidents.
You know what I mean?
Like it's kind of tough to keep tabs.
You know, sometimes they even throw chancellor in there. I'm like, what are we, a university? What's going on? So yeah, no, they got president, the prime minister, all this stuff. I think it's the prime minister of Japan. In most countries, the prime minister, as we know, is actually like the important one, and the president's less powerful. But anyway, we'll get to that in a second. I have some very important updates for you, which just means I'm taking the opportunity to have a little fun before we get into all the seriousness. Although Trump said something quite hilarious in the Oval Office, which we'll bring to you in a second. I'm not delusional. There was, in fact, a movie with Tom Selleck in 1984 called Runaway. And the director, I did not know this until I looked it up, was Michael Crichton of Jurassic Park fame and ER. I did not realize this. But the movie is in an advanced society where homes have robots that perform everyday duties for them. Sometimes they malfunction, and they have to call in a team with Sergeant Jack Ramsey, played by Tom Selleck, to deal with rogue robots in the home. I'm just saying, this movie's like, we're going back 40 years, my friends. This is a long time ago. Elon's working on robots right now that are going to be able to do your laundry and cook food for you and everything else. So this is, it's kind of interesting to see how this plays out. I just thought everybody should know that that is a real thing. The other thing I saw, Clay, on this, because I looked this up on Rotten Tomatoes, One Battle After Another has a 94% positive score on Rotten Tomatoes. Rigged. I don't know if it's the mail-in ballot. I don't know if they've got illegals voting. There's no way that One Battle After Another.
You have or have not seen this movie now?
I have not seen it, but I trust producer Allie, and she says it is worse than Sinners.
She just texted us, "It's crap!" ! As you're talking about it,
94%?
I just saw it pop up because I was downstairs setting the multi-view for my kids to be able to watch the NCAA tournament. It's spring break week. And so I was putting it on. I didn't take them out of school, although there are probably some of you who got to skip school back in the day on this. And I saw that you can buy it. And I was actually thinking, oh, should I buy it this weekend since it won the Oscar? You haven't seen it. Producer Allie says it's crap. But to your point, it obviously has got a decent score. But I do feel like a lot of Rotten Tomatoes is rigged now because it became such
Sinners
a
is 97%, which is just appalling. I mean, this is like, oh yeah, the latest election in Turkmenistan really went the way of the ruling party. Like, it's rigged, right? That's why they get 98% of the vote. Sinners is 97% of the vote. Rigged. Total. War Machine, 71%. War Machine, I'm going to tell you this, may be worse than Sinners. This is a movie with the guy who plays Jack Reacher on the TV show. I don't remember his name, but he's all like, jacked up.
Oh, I did. I starred in a show with him. This
what?
is Blue Mountains. Blue Mountain State. He was one of Thad on Blue Mountain State. Alan Richter, is that his name?
Richson, maybe
something
Alan
like that.
Richson, like that. Yeah,
he was I know he's super successful now, and actually grew up where I am right now on the Panhandle of Florida. But yeah, I did Blue Mountain State, which has become a cult classic on streaming services now. I played myself back in the day.
I'm going to ruin this movie for you, by the way, if you haven't seen it. And I know you're like, Buck, this isn't a movie review show. I'm going to get to all the news in a second. We got 3 hours a day. Just give me a second here. All right. I sit through these movies so you don't have to. I am doing all of you a service. So, Clay, Predator, which is an amazing movie from the 80s with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Predator's a fantastic movie. This is like a Predator ripoff, except it's Army Rangers. What?
I saw this. We were picking a movie to watch, and I was like, there's no way this movie's any good. It's on Netflix, right? Like, Laura and I were picking a movie, and I was like, I won't watch that one.
This is the dumbest movie. It's the dumbest movie maybe I've ever seen. Sinners is a better movie. See, I'm fair. This isn't about politics for me. Sinners is a better, more entertaining movie, even though it's crap, than War Machine. War Machine, just to think about this premise for a second. There are a bunch of Army Rangers who are training non-live fire, okay? They've got like the laser gun, like laser tag guns basically, all right? Whatever they call that, like simunition or laser tag. And out of nowhere, with no explanation, a big robot machine appears and starts just shooting them.
Yes.
And then they have to like run away from it while they're all getting blown up by the big robot machine. And then eventually he gets himself into, like an earth excavator, and he defeats the robot machine. It's the dumbest movie I've ever seen. Like, the people who wrote this movie should be ashamed. The fact that this movie even got made is appalling. I could write a better movie in one day. One day. Give me one day, Netflix.
I vetoed that movie for Laura because I was like, it's like a robot Predator, but way worse. So you have confirmed that that's
correct.
True. I'll give you a movie. I don't know how many people have heard about this. The one that we picked, and I only watch movies when it's not football season and I actually have time. We watched A House of Dynamite. Have you heard about this?
No.
On Netflix. I don't know how popular this thing was. It came out last year, and it is about what would happen if a nuclear weapon was launched towards the U.S., and it just takes you, it's not particularly political that I noticed. It just takes you into like the special ops, into everything that would occur to the best of their ability if there were a nuclear weapon launched. We don't know where it's come from. It's just been launched from a submarine, basically, is the idea, but we're not sure exactly how it got launched, who was responsible for it. What do you do? What happens if that moment actually occurred? It's a nuclear weapon headed towards the United States, one missile, and it just is an examination of the behind the scenes. You're in the White House. You're in the Situation Room. You're seeing it from the Defense Department perspective, from the young.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's good. I thought it was pretty good.
It sounds way better. I mean, I'm sold. This sounds way better.
I have no idea how accurate it is, but it felt accurate to me that this is something what it might somewhat look like.
And also, if any of you are asking, the Tom Selleck movie Runaway is apparently terrible, so just don't put that on your list. That was a Michael Crichton L, unfortunately. Not a good movie, but Tom Selleck's a great American hero. Clay, I can't believe you abandoned Mustache Team, by the way. I'm still, like, a lot of ladies are upset about this.
I got it short. You know what the truth of the matter is? Wearing a mustache is hard to do without the mustache hairs getting in your nose. I don't know if there's experts out there on how to handle this. It was making my nose itch all the time. It was making me sneeze all the time. Like, the mustache gets into your nose region, and I wasn't very good at being able to handle it.
We probably, in this audience, have some winners of the international mustache competition. I mean, this is a facial hair heavy audience. We got a lot of dudes, a lot of bros who could probably weigh in on how to keep the hair out of your nostrils. So I'm just saying, because our ladies, our grandmas for Clay, which if it's not officially a group, it basically is a group because I've seen them and they're very handsy around him. And, Laura's very patient with this. The grandmas get very handsy with Clay. I don't know. Once they hit like 60, all of a sudden they're just grabbing and squeezing Clay. They were big fans of the mustache. Tom Selleck style. Back to the movie though. I got to tell you the worst part about War Machine, and I promise we're going to get to the Trump thing now. The worst part about War Machine though is, think about this. In the movie Predator, you have this elite special operations team. They've got all this like state of the art weaponry. They even got a minigun. And they got all this cool stuff, and they're in the jungle. It's a warfare. In this movie, War Machine, they're on a training exercise. They don't even have any rifles. And they're just running away from this machine that's going bam and like blowing them up. And this is the worst movie I've ever seen. They're like throwing rocks at the robot.
Yeah, somebody said it's Predator with a robot, and they were like, here's $100 million, and it's not a good movie.
What's so funny is that I could say to someone, hey, I'm going to write a movie for Netflix, and Netflix, like, executives would laugh. I could write a better movie than this movie. I'm not kidding. Certainly in a weekend, probably in 24 hours. It was that bad. I mean, the whole thing, the screenplay, the whole thing. All right. Now, Trump. Let's get into it. News. We are a news program. 36. Here it is. Donald Trump meeting with the president of Japan, or Prime Minister of Japan. Prime Minister of Japan. And he was asked by a reporter, why didn't you tell Japan ahead of the Iran strikes what was coming? Here's what he said.
One thing, you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? You know, he's asking me, no, you believe in surprise, I think much more so than us. And we had to surprise him, and we did.
He's really funny.
He's asked, why don't you tell the Allies about the huge air campaign you launched today? And he's like, what about Pearl Harbor?
It is very funny that the Japanese person in the Oval Office would ask the President of the United States why they kept the Iranian attack secret and didn't tell the Allies. And I think some of you would have thought of that, but Trump on his feet immediately thinks, why didn't you guys tell us about Pearl Harbor? And this response is going mega viral. Again, I've been reading so much about World War II, been trying to learn more and more about it. The negativity of our war with Iraq, our whatever you want to call it, intervention, our altercation, our engagement, whatever word you want to apply to this current situation. I do wonder, how would things that most of us look back on now in time and say, you know what, World War II, boy, we were really the good guys. How would today's American media cover World War II? Are they of the belief, my argument is they are not, that America could be a good guy? Are left-wing media today, are they able to even comprehend or willing to consider that the United States might be a good guy? And Buck, I give credit. Did you see the cover? It's very powerful. I saw it this morning, of the Australian newspaper. The Australian is a great newspaper that I read because I buy all the print media when I was in Australia a couple of years ago. They put the faces of tons of the victims of Iran's government, over 30,000 of them, who were murdered for protesting. And a lot of people are asking the question, why is an Australian media outlet covering these 30,000 deaths in a way that the U.S. isn't? And Stephen Chung, who works inside of the White House for President Trump, just shared this story. They just executed a 19-year-old champion wrestler, publicly hung him for protesting the government that exists right now in Iran. So they are continuing with public executions, and a lot of people out there who otherwise are always saying, oh, look at how awful Israel is. Look at what's going on in all of these places right now. And they just executed a 19-year-old, killed him in a public hanging. Good and evil still exists. And Iran is evil. And the government of Iran, not the people of Iran. And I think much of a media has lost the ability to call good and evil because they bought into this idea that the United States is evil too. And if we're evil, then there is no good. And I do think this is where moral authority matters and eliminating moral relativity matters. I mean, think about the way that 2 deaths in Minneapolis were covered in this country. Whatever you think about them, the Alex Pruitt and Renee Good. Those 2 people being killed were covered as an unacceptable result of Trump's draconian policy. Now, most of you disagree with that. You've seen the footage, all those things, but just think about the way the media covered it. Meanwhile, we're trying to help the people of Iran after they just killed 30,000 of their innocent citizens intentionally just for marching in the streets to say, hey, we should have basic human rights. I do think it's hard to reconcile that. And I think it's a profound failure of the American media. And it makes me wonder, to what extent can we even comprehend the way that something like World War II, which I think most people would say, hey, we were the good guys. How would today's American media cover World War II? And how are they failing when they're covering the Iran situation? I think it's a honestly big picture question that's worth a lot of people comprehending and contemplating.
Here on Clay and Buck, we support any company that chooses to create American jobs and is patriotic in its ethos, even if it costs them more money than offshoring those roles. Well, you know, Pure Talk keeps jobs here at home while also keeping the price for all of you very low. That's why they're my cell phone provider, and the quality is just as good as any of the big name competitors because they're on the same 5G network as one of them. But Pure Talk brings you the best pricing and the best customer service. For $25 a month, Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, and plenty of data. And with Pure Talk, there's no contract, no cancellation fees. Grab your cell phone, dial pound 250, say the keywords Clay and Buck, let Pure Talk's U.S. customer service team help you make the switch in 15 minutes or less. Dial pound 250, say Clay and Buck. You'll also save 50% off your first month. Pure Talk, America's wireless company.
Stories of freedom, stories of America, inspirational stories that unite us all. Each day, spend time with Clay and Buck. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back into Clay and Buck. We're going to get to FBI Director Kash Patel's comments on the security situation here at home in a second. But first, a VIP email from Sissy. Buck, I'm with you on questioning the Iran endgame after spending hundreds of millions of dollars bombing Iran. But it's a lot. I mean, I think she meant hundreds of billions. It's going to be a lot more than hundreds of millions. Is it too much to ask the government to pay TSA agents? This is their livelihood and they're needed for security. Yeah, this TSA thing, which we're about to get into also with Kash Patel here, Clay. You know what? Here's Kash Patel, FBI Director Patel, just weighed in on this with the DHS partial funding shutdown issue. This is 37. He just said this. Play it.
After 4 years of an open border during the Biden administration, where we know countless individuals with terror ties, many to these groups, crossed our southern border, and at a time when we are actively engaged with the largest state sponsor of radical jihadi terror, can you confirm that the threat to the American people in this setting is much higher due to the Democrats' current defunding of the Department of Homeland Security?
As I highlighted earlier, Congressman, the FBI works hand in glove with the Department of Homeland Security and our 59 established Homeland Security task forces around the country. And those officers are now going 1 month without pay, but they're still showing up to work. But yes, funding would absolutely help us protect the homeland.
A month without pay? God,
this is
on
ridiculous.
Here, Congress?
This is ridiculous. The average TSA agent makes about $40,000 a year. Now, some of them make more. They are working as a result, as almost anybody who makes $40,000 a year is. They are working paycheck to paycheck, trying to save, trying to take care like everybody else out there. To me, this is a great example of a choice that has been made that is indefensible. Now, on top of that, I think there is it's not the correct thing to do for the people who are doing those jobs. They deserve to be paid, as all of us do, for the work that they do at the time that they do it. Second, it is actually making us far more dangerous because a lot of people are having to go find other jobs, or they're calling in sick, or they're quitting because they're fed up with the fact that they're not getting paid for their work, as many of you would be as well. And on top of that, if you're going through TSA right now, every morning I wake up, Buck, and I go through and I'm doing prep for the show, and there is a different airport going viral because the lines have extended outside of the airport, into parking garages, outdoors. This is lunacy. And I think it honestly should be a bigger story. I think it would be a bigger story if Iran wasn't going on. I think all the newscasts would be setting up at the airport and they would be interviewing angry people. Buck, I don't know about you. I don't care what your politics are. If I have to stand in line for hours to go through airport security, I want everybody involved fired. I'm just being honest with you. Democrat, Republican, Independent. I think most people, if you are standing in line, now look, Democrats are the ones that have refused to open, and I think that's important to say. And they are asking for things that have nothing to do whatsoever with the TSA. And they are breaking previously agreed upon spending protocols. All of that is true. But I'm telling you, you want something where people are just steaming mad no matter what. You make somebody stand in line for hours at the TSA, they're going to be furious. They're going to be mean to the TSA agents. They're going to be angry and embittered when they get on airplanes, if they're fortunate enough to make their flights. They're going to be less kind than they normally would be to flight attendants, to different airline employees that are working inside of the airports. This is why every airline CEO in America published an open letter saying, get this funded and pay everybody. And Buck, the ridiculous thing about this is eventually they're going to get paid. It's illegal to employ people and not compensate them for their work. So the principle or the perspective that's even being advocated for is nonsensical, because we know how this ends. It ends with them eventually getting paid. But in the meantime, people are not able to take care of their families. And I just think this is wrong. And I don't think this should be allowed, period. You shouldn't be allowed to make people continue to work without paying them for working, period. Because guess what? Your credit card bills still come due. Your car payments still come due. Your rent still comes due. And most people don't have the ability to go, candidly, for 2 months without making money. They just don't. And so I think that everything about this is wrong. And I think it makes us less safe. And I think it also makes everybody angrier, because I understand you shouldn't have to stand in line for 2 hours to go to the airport.
So just so we're all very clear on this, the reason why DHS people are not getting paid, and the reason why TSA lines are incredibly long and a whole bunch of different airports burning tens of thousands of people's time unnecessarily.
Yes.
Is because Democrats, like a bunch of babies throwing a tantrum, think that this is forcing accountability for what happened in Minneapolis, where a couple of lunatics forced a confrontation with ICE officers and got shot. This is what this
that's
whole
100%
thing is.
true.
People are waiting in line. If you have had to wait in line, or if you are a DHS officer or a TSA officer who has not gotten paid, it is because Chuck Schumer and company think that the lunatics that we saw on camera running up to people in ICE, like, oh, you can't, the child predator, illegal alien you're trying to arrest is as American as apple pie. Those lunatics got shot. It was mishandled from the messaging perspective. That's why Noam no longer has a job at DHS, which was the right move, by the way. And that's what this is all about.
Yes.
What one has nothing to do with the other.
Yes.
They're just inflicting pain on people to show the Democrat base of maniacs who don't want anyone. And be clear, they don't want anyone deported, because they don't want the worst of the worst illegals that are prioritized by these ICE task forces in different cities, because they're multiple time felons, because they've come into the country illegally after being deported multiple times, all this stuff. They don't even want them gone. We are light years away from like kindly abuela, who's been here for 30 years, getting sent back to Nicaragua or something. That is not what's going on. What's going on is they're going after the high-level public safety threats, and Democrats aren't even okay with that. And Democrats will stymie it. They will stop it. They won't allow them to go into courthouses. They won't allow detainer requests. They won't allow any of this. And they think they're the good guys. This is just a messaging battle for them. They want to just say, this is about accountability for ICE, and they have to show their faces, and they don't want immigration enforcement.
It's crazy. They'd already agreed to this. It basically is, it's beyond absurd. And I don't know when it's going to end. A part of me thinks that Democrats are hoping there's something awful that happens, because you know what will happen, right? They're not paying TSA. if somebody gets through a TSA screening with something that they can do harm to others with, gun, bomb, whatever it is, Democrats will line up and say this is all President Trump's fault. You know it. I know it. They're basically rooting for something awful to happen so that they can blame Trump.
Here is Chuck. I mentioned him. Chuck Schumer, cut 17. Play this one.
They are trying to dupe us, folks. They are trying to dupe America. They say, oh, this is just a voter ID law. Bullshit. It is not a voter ID law. It is a law that will kick millions of Americans off the voting rolls. We know what happened. Their bill, they had to add this in, demands that every state turn over the voting rolls to the Department of Homeland Security. And we've had enough of them on other issues. And once they get that, there is a algorithm put in by Trump, by Musk and Doge that would kick tens of millions of people off the rolls.
That's all.
This is about the SAVE Act, obviously, the Save America Act. But the point is, like, this is what Democrats just sabotage the country and think they're the good guys. This is all. They're doing it with DHS and ICE. They're doing it with the Save America Act. This is where it is, man. They and Clay, unfortunately, they're pretty effective at lying. I mean, they're pretty good at convincing people who don't pay close attention that somehow they're the good guys in all of this. This is like George Floydism we're talking about here up in Minneapolis with the don't forget about the facts. Oh, 2 people were shot by ICE and it's terrible, and that's why we have to wait in line at TSA. Like, what are they even talking about?
No, it makes no sense.
The people that were shot by ICE were acting like maniacs. They were obstructing law enforcement.
Why should TSA agents' paychecks be held hostage because Democrats are angry about ICE? I mean,
but this is what I mean. It's George Floydism in that, George Floyd was killed by one cop. So now your store in like Baltimore should be burned to the ground?
Yeah,
this is
ludicrous.
Just an excuse for people to act like idiots.
But these guys are just, again, the average TSA agent makes $40K. Think about how many of you out there listening right now could go 6 or 8 weeks without a paycheck. Even if you ultimately get that paycheck down the line, you're working full time. How many of you could pay all your bills if you didn't get 2 months of pay? Your average TSA agent can't. It's not like they're making $400,000 a year. It's not like they have the ability to create huge savings on $40,000 a year on average. I just think this is frankly reprehensible and awful. And the results, again, I just jotted it down. No pay is wrong. Making us more dangerous in the country at a time when there are people trying to attack us. New York City, Austin, Denver, Detroit area, and Old Dominion. And the politics on it, to Buck's point, are ludicrous. So it doesn't even add, none of it adds up, and the end result is awful across the board for everybody. This, again, I think it's not a bigger story because Iran is soaking up all of the news right now, but every morning locally, this is a big story. If you're trying to go to the airport and they're telling you to get there 3 hours before your flight and you're standing there for hours in your line, it's a big deal. People are angry.
Let me tell you, when we were doing counterinsurgency analysis in the worst days of the Iraq War, one thing that we would talk about as we were doing these assessments and going into the White House, talk to Bush, talk to Cheney, the national security team, etc., was the problem of dealing with an insurgency is they benefit from misery. All they have to do is create misery. Yeah. And at some level, they're winning, right? Blow this up, kill this person, make life unlivable. Because the people who are supposed to be in charge are hurt by their inability to protect everyone else. This is kind of the Democrat approach to when the Republicans have an administration. All they want to do is just create misery and dissension. They don't have better ideas. They don't have ways. They don't want to fix anything. They are like insurgents. They just want to spread misery because they benefit from misery. And that is what Schumer and all of his Democrat pals are trying to do. That's obviously what this TSA thing is. Make people ticked off, make people feel bad, tell them that bad things are happening, and then they can be, Democrats can be in power. That's the whole game. And it's really hard to deal with because misery is easy to make.
Misery is unfortunately the name of the game in many different parts of the Middle East right now, including in Israel, where Jerusalem's old city thankfully, has so far managed to avoid significant damage. But the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where the crucifixion happened, where Jesus was buried, it is very close to having been hit multiple times. Not an hour goes by in Israel without a siren going off, notifying residents to seek protection from incoming missiles or drone attacks. No one in Israel, regardless of what their background is immune from danger. And the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews has been working in Israel for years. And this month is an incredible challenge because they're trying to get as much food, emergency equipment, care for kids, and help for the elderly as they can. They're also building bomb shelters. They're trying to allow hospitals to stay in business. They're trying to protect first responders. You can help rush life-saving support to Israel right now by calling 888-488-IFCJ. That's 888-488-IFCJ. I have seen the work they do in Israel. It is life-changing. It is incredibly encouraging, substantially and incredibly transformative. You can go online at ifcj.org. We know this organization. We trust it. The website again, ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org.
You ain't imagining it. The world has gone insane. Reclaim your sanity with Clay and Buck. Find them on the free iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.